Good evening, everyone. My name is Marriott Clardy Davis, and I'm owner and founder of ML Clardy Law, LLC. It is a mental health centered legal firm in the state of Georgia, and we provide three distinct services, all mental health related. The first is psychiatric treatment representation. The second, ADA employment planning with accommodations. And then the third is incapacity or estate planning. The goal is to really help families and individuals, give them more clarity on their present and empower them on their future. So today, I want to focus on three common questions that I'm often asked. And I do have some notes here because I have some important numbers, and I'm often asked these questions. And so I wanted to just really explore the three and address them today. So because they are specific questions that may or may not be considered legal questions, I do want to have a brief disclaimer, which is that this video is for educational purposes only. So since your situation might be unique or different, I always encourage you to seek someone who is in your state or competent legal counsel or a specialist to really delve into your specific challenges or circumstances. So our three questions today are: number one, if I have a loved one that is currently experiencing a mental health crisis, what should I do? Whether they are attempting or discussing harming themselves or others. Number two is, if I have a loved one in psychiatric treatment, what can I do? How can I protect them? And then the third is an offshoot of the first two, but it is, if I step in and help my loved one while they're in treatment, will they get upset with me? So let's start with the first. And the first one I'm often asked generally when a loved one, a family member, friend, etc., does have a loved one and they are either discussing harming themselves or others. And I'm often asked legally, what should they do? What shouldn't they do? So I do want to delve on a really high level, but I often encourage individuals to really look at their specific circumstances and seek counsel. But I kind of want to break this into the three things. The first one is to really assess the safety of the situation. So the first thing is assessing the state of the crisis, and if the individual is in imminent danger to either themselves or others. If you don't feel, I believe that the first priority is to do whatever is necessary so that you feel safe. I understand that individuals are often very concerned over those that they care about, especially when it comes to being in crisis or the thought of suicide, but I always encourage anyone that safety first. It's like the airplane, I call it the airplane mantra. If in the state of an emergency, it's vital that you put your air mask on first before assisting others. And so this is the same kind of situation, making sure that your safety and the safety of those around you is paramount. So number two is really determining the next steps. And one of the things that I always recommend is, and this just comes from personal experience, telling someone that just to get over it and they'll be okay, I highly recommend not doing. Often, if you don't know what to say to someone who's experiencing crisis, offering support or silence is generally advisable. However, I do also recommend understanding what your options are. There are many crisis support lines in the state of Georgia and nationwide, and I have my notes here so that I can refer to them. There's a teen suicide prevention line. There are many warm lines, and warm lines may be less known, but they're really trained volunteers or peers who also have training, who can really help talk to your loved one if they are in crisis. Another, which I think is really important, is the Georgia Crisis and Access Line. Many states have specific crisis and access lines, and these are lines that you can call so that they can really speak to your loved one and assess the situation and determine the need for any advanced care. There's also national suicide prevention lines, NAMI, Georgia HelpLine, National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. There are a number of them, and I'm going to put them in the comments because I feel like if you are lost as far as how to help your loved one, but you feel like they are in immediate or imminent danger to themselves or others, or even what I like to call the trajectory of that situation, I truly advise individuals to call some of these helplines to really get the support that they need. And if necessary, they can also speak to your loved ones as well. Number two, or let's say number three is if you have the contact information for their provider, whether it's psychiatrist, therapist, or a trained counselor that works with them regularly, I would highly suggest contacting them, because since they are a patient or they see them, they are better equipped both in licensing and training to assess the situation. If you can encourage them to go to a facility to get evaluated, I also recommend that. And then finally, 911 is often an option. I do want to put a small caveat in that if you are calling 911, please be sure to inform them that it is not a criminal situation, that it is a mental health crisis, and encourage them or ask if they have any units that are specifically trained to work with those who are experiencing a mental health crisis. I often find that those units are better trained and equipped to evaluate the situation and, most important, de-escalate it. So let's move on to the second question, which is, let's say that your loved one is in treatment. How do you protect them? So I call it the big three: facilitation, advocacy, and negotiation if necessary. So it's important when a loved one is at a facility that communication is key. Often I am brought in because one of two things happen. Either the family members are extremely confused as far as what is going on, whether it's medications, whether it's treatment options, whether it's the loved one saying that the hospital wants them to sign something, or a breakdown in communication, miscommunication, etc. It generally boils down to the family is panicked because they feel like their loved one is their rights are being violated or they're not being protected. And what it often boils down to is miscommunication and just lack of understanding. So if you can only do one thing, I would say it is to establish clear lines of communication, continue to be as transparent, and encourage as much transparency as possible between all parties, whether it's the loved one, whether it's the mental health providers, the facility, and the family members. That really goes a long way into getting the help that the loved one needs to make them not only successful in treatment, but to have a successful journey towards stability. And finally, the third and most important, I would say, and I'm often asked this, is if an individual is in treatment and I step in, I'm a family member, won't they get upset at me? Won't they get mad at me? And this is further compounded by many of the, whether it's friends or family members, who say that they are directly responsible for the individual being there. So this, I'm going to say the answer is maybe. It depends. And in the cases that I work with, they may get upset. But what is important is for you to understand that in order for you to fully protect and to advocate for your loved one, whether it is a family member or friend, you have to be able to really understand what the individual's legal rights are, whether they are in there voluntarily, involuntarily, and if there are any specific issues that come up, what are their legal rights? And more importantly, what are some practical solutions that can be used to serve in the best interest of the loved one? Because as I tell everyone, in the end, it is about helping the individual in their journey towards stability. So if you are a loved one, individual, family member, and you have questions, either you want to delve deeper into one of the three that I have asked, or if you have any specific questions related to psychiatric treatment, legal rights, ADA accommodation planning, or incapacity planning, I encourage you to contact my office. You can schedule a free discovery call, state of Georgia only, for psychiatric representation. And feel free to go to my website, www.mlclardylaw.llc, and I will be happy to speak with you to really determine what your challenges are, goals are, and if our office or another partner or resource can help you and your loved one in their journey towards stability. So I want to thank you for joining me in this video today, and I hope you have a great evening. Thank you.